So stay with us here on TVC Breakfast. Now, according to the latest global gas flaring tracker report by the World Bank, Nigeria, alongside 8 other countries, has been identified as a major contributor to global gas flaring, accounting for 75% of the world's flared gas. The 8 other countries identified in the report are Russia, the United States, Iran, Iraq, Venezuela, Algeria, Libya, and Mexico, with Nigeria being 8th on the list. The report noted that these 9 countries have dominated global gas flaring for over a decade. Also, the report showed that these countries produce 46% of the world's oil, yet their gas flaring practices remain a significant environmental concern. Now, joining us via Zoom from Benin to discuss the implications of this report on climate is environmentalist and executive director, Environmental Defenders Network, Chima Williams. Thank you so much for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Mr. Chima, let's confirm whether you can hear me. Good to see you.
Okay. Great to see you here too.
Absolutely. Right. So first off, we want to congratulate you for the new organization, and the Environmental Defenders Network. Congratulations. But what do you make of the Global Gas Flaring Tracker report by the World Bank, which places Nigeria among the 9 countries accounting for 75% of the global gas flares?
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother, for first recognizing our new organization and congratulating us for coming on board. Yeah, on the report itself, there is something new about it because all other previous years' reports by the World Bank team have always classified Nigeria among the biggest gas flarers in the world. In fact, the surprising thing about this 2023 report is that it has removed Azerbaijan, which used to be a compatriot of Nigeria in the global gas flaring index. So this year, Azerbaijan had been cut off out of the biggest gas flarers. So over the years, we have continued to say that Nigeria's greenhouse gas emission footprint is among the worst in the world, and it needs to be tackled, despite all the claims by the multinationals and local companies that are flaring gas, that they have reduced their emissions, they have reduced gas flaring quantum in Nigeria. But this 2023 report is a clear indicator that the reverse is the case.
And where does this revelation, put Nigeria, looking at the fact that we have always been at the forefront of advocacy in ending the climate crisis?
Yeah, you see, the irony of it is that Nigeria is among the first 2 African countries to enact their climate change law, but still among the worst flarers in the world. And of course, the greatest contributor to climate change incidents is from the greenhouse gas emission releases, and Nigeria being the highest contributor among the highest contributors in the world. And in Africa, of course, I think Nigeria will still retain her position if it has not gone a step ahead. Nigeria used to be number 3 biggest flarer in Africa. But now, I think with this 2023 report, though we are not sure of the classification of, the positioning, But being among the 9 in the world, Nigeria definitely will be among the 3 biggest flares in Africa. So if you put this side by side, it's paradoxical that a country that has made commitments on ending or contributing to reduction in climate change indices through our national determined contributions, and of course the promises by our government to bring an end to gas flaring in certain years. So you find this contradiction and negative narrative in the sense that, in one hand, we are talking of diversification and reduction in gas flaring. At the other hand, by our Climate Change Act and the Petroleum Industries Act, we are still making provisions for new oil finds. And of course, that we know that gas flaring comes with oil production. So how do we want to tackle, our climate change footprint if we continue to invest in new dirty oil, dirty energy sources, as have been classified, including petroleum production? So, as it is a simple thing. We have to be sincere to ourselves. We have to tell ourselves the gospel truth. Because in time past, it used to be that, climate impact will not happen in Nigeria, is only known in some parts of the world. But today, the stark reality is staring at us, that every year we get the reports by the relevant agencies, especially the Meteorological Agency of Nigeria, that makes forecasts on flood issues, for instance. And of course, when it happens, as all the forecasts are now on ground, that about 30, if not 32 states of the Federation is going to face adverse flooding situation when the rains set in. And if you look at a combination of this, apart from the, direct consequences of gas flaring on communities, which include health and environmental issues, including psychological issues. Of course, gas flaring, if we look at communities where gas is flared, they are deprived of the right to darkness. So, which means every time 247, they are in daylight. And those activities, those health, biological, and psychological issues that occurs during the night hours, including healing, they are deprived and denied of that. So we can go ahead and reel out the negative consequences, which is well known to the managers of, the Nigerian state, through the various ministries, agencies, and departments.
That's right. So you seem to kind of understand this better, and we would like to actually tap from your experience, because having worked extensively on oil pollution issues, including gas flaring in the Niger Delta. Do talk to us about how dire do you consider this situation in some of these communities that you mentioned, that host gas flare stacks. Could you help us describe how this has been, or how it's like?
Yeah, of course, our research showed that they are, as a result of the carcinogenic agent releases through gas flaring, and of course, new findings now indicates that gas flaring contains some quantum of methane, which is the most dangerous atmospheric chemical release in the world today. And what does this cause? We see in some communities, as one of my very good friends and brother, John Agbemre, will always show the world. Look into my eyeballs and see 24/7, my eyeballs are always red. Okay, these are physical observations. And of course, we had tried to embark on blood urine sample analysis to determine traces of gas flaring particulates in the human system, which causes cancer, okay, which equally leads to other forms of ailments that could be visibly seen, but difficultly, aligned as to the causes. So the situation is there, as I mentioned earlier on, health-wise, psychologically, and biologically. Most healing medications take effect during the night hours, when the day is dark, when the brains are relaxed, when the body system is relaxed. But in these communities, there is no such period of time for them, because 24/7 there is daylight. Apart from, all the other indicators that are seen, like itching of the body that makes, human relaxation difficult. And of course, environmentally, you see the degradation of the environment. All the water systems are polluted. And if you go to a community that has gas flaring stacks, and the most dangerous part of it is that in most communities, these gas flare stacks are at the center of the community. Take, for instance, Gelegele community in Edo State here. The gas flare stacks are in the middle of the community, so there is no way you can escape from it. And if rain falls, you harvest rainwater. Look at it, the particulates. You will see that the rainwater harvested will look brownish and most of the times very dark, different from normal rainwater that is to be alkaline crystal clear. So if you take all this into consideration, because the other part of it is that lack of infrastructural facilities to take care of the outcomes of these releases into the atmosphere and into the human system means that in some communities, you notice that when somebody dies, within less than 15 minutes, the dead body turns black. It ceases to be normal. Of course, in normal situation, dead bodies are supposed to be either brownish or whitish, but it turns dark. And in some such communities, the citizens ascribe this to witchcraft, incidents, whereas there is nobody bewitching the other. It is a result of the impact of gas flaring on the communities and its people and its inhabitants. So loss of livelihood is equally part of the negative consequences of gas flaring, because the polluted aqua system makes it difficult for aqua life to continue to exist. So suffocation in their breeding and habitation points are destroyed, because they can no longer breathe freely to continue to reproduce.
Right. All right, Mr. Williams.
If you go to some of these communities that have them, yes.
And so in a bit to, address this, there was a time that the Nigerian government, I'm aware that they set a deadline for ending the flares. I think the first time was in 2007, and then in 2010, and also 2013. What happened? What happened to that practice? Was it a lack of compliance or a monitoring strategy to ensure an end to this?
Well, it is not an issue of monitoring. It is lack of political will to ensure that gas flaring comes to an end in Nigeria. Because we have been at the head of these campaigns, there is nothing that we have not done. We have done signature collections, we have done petitions, we had gone to court to stop gas flaring, and of course, the shifts in dates continue to happen. I think the latest now is 2030. It used to be 2020 by the previous administration. They promised 2020 there will be an end to gas flaring, and in 2020, the goalpost was moved again to 2030 and possibly to 2060. So, who amongst us is very sure that we will be alive by that time to see gas flaring come to an end? Okay? So, it is more of lack of political will. I will give you an instance. We had moved the National Assembly, the Senate, in their joint session of the Senate Committee on Oil and Gas down and upstream to pass a version of the gas flaring prohibition and punishment bill. But that was scuttled by the lower house because it has to be concurrence between the two chambers before it can be presented to Mr. President for assent. And this was way back 2008. And it continues. We had made efforts to work, the Ministry of Environment during the time of an attempt to promulgate the Nigerian Environmental Protection Law, then a bill. And what killed that bill was our insistence on inserting the provision on ending gas flaring from the day that bill becomes law. Because actually we understood later that the oil companies, the multinationals and the national oil companies that were flaring gas supported that bill to use it to of ends to gas flaring. So bringing that and adopting that as part of that law to end gas flaring on the day that bill was signed into law by Mr. President killed that bill up till today. So you can see that it is not as a result of lack of monitoring, but rather lack of political will by successive governments.
Yeah.
And we are looking and hoping that this present administration will want to cut a different path for itself.
That's right.
By getting these men put to an end in their, regime lifetime.
Right. So looking further, if you look at the gas flare tracker report, where it was mentioned that the potential market value of the overall amount of gas flared in 2023 could have been between $9 billion and $48 billion. The Nigerian government has been promoting use of compressed natural gas, that's the CNG. Talk to us about what you think should be, what you think Nigeria should actually do with the flared gas.
Yeah, of course, our literature are out there. We've always made suggestions to the governments and even to the oil companies that, look, this flared gas can be harnessed, can be harnessed and utilized in different ways. One way, which will not cost them much, will be to so that it is not released at all. And there are technologies to do that. The other angle, which could be a commercial part of it, which the policy, the gas flaring prohibition of waste policy 2018 talked about, which was in terms of utilization of the flared gas. These gas that are flared can be harnessed, captured, refined, and used for produced for domestic uses and including industrial uses. Now, you can see that Nigeria, with the abundance of gas, both natural and the flared gas, is one of the countries with the highest gas prices for domestic use. So when we talk about the CNGs themselves, those do not solve the problem of gas flaring because these are natural, unassociated gas.
That's right.
And we must understand the differences between the two. Associated gas is the one that comes with oil, with crude, okay? During oil production, petroleum production, there are processes of separation. There are three components, majorly the oil. And these, the fluid water and the gas are wasted, okay? Because the fluid water is pumped out, it causes its own environmental havoc, but the most dangerous of it is the gas that is flared because it has no limits.
That's right.
As to where its impact will get. And this is why we classify gas flaring as a local activity that has international impact. Because we have seen, as a result of, its gas, a greenhouse gas emission, quantum,
absolutely,
it contributes to the exacerbation of incidents of climate change, which has no boundary and which defies technology and defies, the wealth of every nation.
Right.
So
several interesting.
Of Mother Earth,
right.
Is uncontained.
Yeah, you've actually made a very interesting, points about this issue of public concern, especially what we need in our economy of Nigeria to actually shore up the economy of Nigeria in terms of oil and gas. You've said so many things, but then because of our time, we just have to, rest it here for now. Environmentalist and Executive Director, Environmental Defenders Network, Chima Williams. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much. Stay with us here on TVC Breakfast. Still on TVC Breakfast. It's